So more than 3,000 businesses in the building and construction industry last year went completely broke and belly up, and hundreds more would have had to require some form of external administration for restructuring or debt forgiveness. And in normal times, building and construction as an industry accounts for 15% of all insolvency events in this country. Currently, it is over 30% of all building insolvency events. So quite literally, the signs are all there that times have ever been tougher in your industry. The causes quite well documented: rising costs, fixed price contracts, finance costs, increasing regulation. It's never been more pressure on you guys to be able to fix and solve all of these sorts of problems. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people having a chat about how to deal with these issues, which is somewhat short-sighted in a political climate when we're talking about creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs. If people don't start looking after building and construction related businesses, I don't know who's going to build all these homes. I know that nobody wants to find themselves having to have a chat with a liquidator or insolvency practitioner, but I was recently invited to an informal discussion group amongst a group of builders who were sitting around on a regular basis and having a chat about issues faced by their business. And I thought that was fantastic, because there's a group of people sitting around talking about what they know, helping each other out, getting some information about what they don't know. And I thought that was really, really brilliant, because you guys are in a really difficult industry that is under more pressure at the moment than at any time in recent memory. So it's really important to be able to have sources of knowledge and people that you can talk to about situations that your business is encountering. When I say that your industry is under pressure, the statistics back this up. I wanted to talk about specifically how you guys can protect yourselves from some of the pressures, financial pressures that your businesses are facing. So that's what I'm here and focus on. However, after today, if you ever need someone as a sounding board to discuss issues in your business, whether it be how best to protect yourselves, if you've got people that you're in business with who have entered into forms of external administration, or if you find yourself in need of advice on how to preserve and protect, rehabilitate, restructure your own businesses or protect yourselves from the consequences, it is not an exaggeration to say that there is a significant, or the majority of people who find themselves in need of some advice in this area are victims of the circumstances that your industry is facing, rather than any mismanagement or that it is personally responsible, but it isn't necessarily going to protect you. So I guess if there's one thing that is to be aware of and have a think about today, it is to be honest and be informed about the financial circumstances of your company. And in any situation, there's nothing wrong with getting some advice from people seeking help. One of the things that your president mentioned before is that the NBA has a real initiative and focus on mental health in amongst your industry. I do a lot of work with the Lions Club based down in Cronulla, where I live. The rates of people suffering extreme health issues, mental health related issues based on financial and business stress is absolutely huge. So don't be afraid to ask for help and find out some advice in areas of things that you don't know. I'm the managing partner at O'Brien Palmer. I'm a registered liquidator and bankruptcy trustee. So we do all forms of external administration and business restructuring. I won't go too far into all of that at the moment, because the types of topics and advices specific to your circumstances we could talk about for hours and nobody wants to. Where are the areas of significant personal exposure for directors is what I really wanted to talk about today. Falling into four main areas and understanding the some major misconceptions that people have about protecting themselves from insolvency situations. The first one is the biggest issue in the industry today, driving insolvency events and causing major problems personally for directors, and this is the Australian Taxation Office and the issuance of director penalty notices. For anyone who doesn't necessarily have familiarity with what a director penalty notice is, the ATO instigated or took powers a few years ago, and it was designed to incentivise company directors to lodge their tax returns on or close to on time, so that the ATO had all the information to hand about the financial positions of your business and the level of debts owed. The idea was that if your company has significant tax debts outstanding, they could issue you with a notice that says you've now got 21 days in which to either pay the debt or enter into a form of external administration, else you would personally become liable for your company's debts. They then changed the policy to say that if your lodgements for any BAS returns or superannuation statements are more than 3 months overdue, that director penalty notice can no longer be remitted just by lodging your returns or entering into administration. It effectively creates a statutory personal guarantee where you become personally liable for the debts of your company if you haven't lodged your tax returns or super guarantee charge statements within 3 months of the due date. Now, once again, that was specifically designed to enforce and incentivise people to keep all their lodgements up to date and know their financial position. However, in recent times, the ATO have adopted a new policy where they are really using this as a form of personal guarantee to be able to get around the protections that you're supposed to have as directors and the separation of your business affairs and personal affairs. These director penalty notices are being issued out in a way that never have before. They are being issued to people who have already put their companies into external administration if there's a period of time where there were lodgements late. And that was something that was never intended, and it's something that the ATO is using to get a better position in recoveries moving forward. The only real way to protect yourself in this area from these guys is make sure that your lodgements are always on time. Even if you cannot afford to pay, lodge your BASs. If you cannot afford to pay the super on time, lodge a superannuation guarantee charge statement. As long as you've got your lodgements in on time, the director penalty notice can always be overturned by seeking a form of external administration. But once you've missed that 3-month deadline, you're personally liable, even if you haven't received that notice yet, because that notice can come out at any time. The ATO is going back and issuing them out for notices for periods 4 and 5 years ago where there was a default. The only real way to protect yourself here, guys, is make sure that your lodgements are in even if you cannot afford to pay. It's also really important. The ATO will issue you out with a director penalty notice when they do data matching. And once the ATO has issued you with a director penalty notice, the onus falls on you as the individual to show that the ATO is wrong in the issuance of the director penalty notice. And any costs that you have to incur in that are going to fall upon you to do so. It's a complete reversal of the onus where the ATO has to prove what you owe to them. And there are cases of people who have received director penalty notices for millions of dollars, have been able to put up a valid argument that the ATO's director penalty notice is being issued incorrectly. The director penalty notice moves on to a side pile where the ATO says we're going to get to looking at assessing these at some point in the future. But the tax debt stays on your file until the matter is resolved, and in cases that has taken them years before they'd be willing to admit that the mistake was made, and they remove the debt off your personal profile. It's really, really hideous imposition on business that was never intended by the legislation, and I can only really encourage you guys to protect yourself by staying up to date with your lodgements and making sure that the contact details that you have for your businesses and registered with the ATO or with your tax agents are current. Because it doesn't matter, once they've issued it out, if they've issued it to the address that you've given to the ATO or is on file, it doesn't matter if you haven't received it. If you didn't update those addresses, it's too bad, that onus falls on you.